Well, we want to return now to our breaking news at the top of the show. A judge in Lower Manhattan sentenced the president-elect to what's called an unconditional discharge, amounting essentially to no penalty at all.
Of course, this case having to do with the hush money case, cementing Trump's status as a convicted felon. Just 10 days ahead of the inauguration. Joining us now, ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky. Aaron, thank you for joining us. And, you know, in court, Trump addressed the court via camera. And in it, he continued to proclaim his innocence and that he would appeal this decision. What are the indications that, what odds are that he might win in an appeal?
It may be long odds. We'll see on what grounds he decides to appeal. His best shot may be on some of the evidence that was introduced. The Supreme Court said official acts of the president are immune from the criminal process. And there were a couple of pieces of evidence that may be within that realm. The jury heard from Hope Hicks, who was the White House communications advisor. The jury heard or saw some tweets that the then president made about Michael Cohen. Prosecutors say that had nothing to do with his official acts as president, but the Supreme Court has taken a rather expansive view of what constitutes presidential activity. That could be in dispute on appeal.
So I'm going to ask you about this unconditional discharge.
Sure.
I don't recall hearing it before. I'm sure it's been used. Is it unusual?
Well, unusual in the way that it was applied here, Sandra, because the judge really felt he had no other choice. He said he wanted to uphold the sanctity of the jury's verdict. That's sacrosanct in our system. But he also said the president is about to assume the White House, and so you really couldn't have sentenced him to anything else. So there's no fine, there's no jail time, there's no probation, but what remains is the blemish of a conviction. And now that sentence has formally been imposed, it does make Trump a convicted felon, and that's the moniker he will carry into the White House.
Lawyers for Trump had hoped to get the Supreme Court to intervene and to do at least delay this sentencing today, but they decided in a 5-4 vote to allow it to go forward. And I thought it was interesting because one of the people that voted to prevent it from going forward was Sam Alito. And right before this case was decided, we learned that Trump spoke to him. And he claims it was nothing to do with the hush money case, but doesn't that raise questions that the president, who's about to go before the Supreme Court, would have a discussion with one of the Supreme Court justices? Sure
seems to be a disregard for the timing on the part of Trump and Alito, although Alito has said that he didn't know Trump was going to file for a stay. Maybe he could have presumed that he would. Right. Apparently it didn't come up. But nonetheless, the Supreme Court, with some surprising breakdown, decided to let the sentencing go forward. Amy Coney Barrett, the justice Trump appointed, sided with Chief Justice Roberts and the liberals in denying Trump a stay.
There you go. All right. Well, Aaron Katersky, thanks again for joining us. A lot more to do on this story, of course, and we appreciate all you've been doing on it.
Thanks, guys.
All right.